War of Wise, the Battle for Charters Towers. A tragic ballad of dust, dreams, and dancing death. In the blistering summer of 1935, under a scorching white sky, the red soil of Charters Towers witnessed a bizarre and catastrophic chapter of Australian history, the War of Wise. This was no ordinary conflict. It wasn't fought over borders, money, or revenge, but over philosophy, performance, and prestige. At its heart was a single velvet seat in the elite Utrecht Wise Parliament, reserved only for the most cunning and culturally dominant minds. The rivals were extraordinary. On one side stood the towering, poetic long-reach long-legged ladies, a fierce league of dancers and debaters led by the enigmatic Lady Marigold Swampwood Catter, 6'4" without her mulga-bark stilettos, with a voice that could silence riots. On the other hand, from the steamy green of far north Queensland, rose the Cairns Conga. Chaotic, hypnotic dancers and thinkers led by the mango-slicked mystic, Captain Kane, whose rhythm could bend stone. The war lasted 2 wild months, 60 nights of dust, verse, and hypnotic conga lines. What followed would scar the land and echo through generations like a forgotten fever dream. The railroad bombing tragedy. The first thunderclap of devastation struck under the trembling eye of a full moon on January 14th. The lifeblood of Charters Towers, the railway line running west from Townsville, became the setting for a horrific act of sabotage. The Cairns Conga, in a covert operation coded Banana Peel, sent a stealth unit led by the volatile twin sisters, Marva and Darla Drumstone, experts in both explosives and interpretive limbo. With the precision of clockwork and the cruelty of thunder, they planted a sequence of mango-scented charges on the Eastern Rail Bridge. At precisely 2:03 a.m., the Wisdom Express, a massive supply train ferrying campaigners, poets, typewriters, salted bush bread, and barrels of philosophy ink, rounded the bend with a mournful C-sharp whistle. The bridge collapsed beneath it. The carriages twisted and fell like broken accordion bellows, plummeting into the black waters of the Burdekin River. Screams mingled with the metallic groans of collapsing beams. Oil barrels exploded upon contact with the water, painting the surface with trails of fire. The current devoured all in its path. 210 souls perished that night, among them philosophers, linguists, tailors of campaign costumes, and 6 entire debate teams. The river glowed red until dawn, and no one ever retrieved the train bell. It still rings beneath the surface, they say, when the moon is high and the water mourns. The Cinema Massacre. On the sultry night of January 27th, vengeance came not in the form of bullets or flames, but through the seductive power of performance. At the Charters Open-Air Cinema, a beloved gathering place known for its lavender lemonade and weekly philosophy sing-alongs, the Cairns Conga was premiering their propaganda musical, Kane the Brain, a Tap Odyssey. The audience was thick with conga soldiers, civilian supporters, and wide-eyed children clutching mango-flavored popcorn. Unbeknownst to the crowd, long-reach infiltrators had long prepared for this moment. Disguised as concession girls and ushers, they had replaced the reels and planted eucalyptus leaves inside the projector's exhaust. As the first scene faded, the image on screen stuttered and changed to an unexpected presentation, Ladies of Long Reach, a visual manifesto. The audience gasped. Then, as the first chords played, 50 long-legged ladies in sequined camouflage burst onto the lawn beneath the screen, launching into an intricate, hypnotic high-kick routine, each movement perfectly synchronized, each heel stomping ancient wisdom into the soil. The crowd, stunned and bewitched, remained motionless. But the sabotaged projector overheated. Sparks flew. The reel caught. Fire climbed the screen with terrifying elegance. The frame collapsed inward, dragging canvas and cables with it. The stands ignited like matchbooks. Screams erupted. Some tried to escape, only to be caught beneath flaming benches or trampled by panicked dancers. The scent of burnt eucalyptus clung to the smoke. By morning, 375 bodies had been counted, including 12 choreographers, 5 script editors, and nearly an entire brass band. The ashes were still warm when the sun rose. The open-air cinema would never reopen. But no tragedy was as personal, as vicious, as the events of the Swampwood Birthday Massacre. Lady Marigold Swampwood had dared to find joy amidst the sorrow, celebrating her 36th birthday in the grand ballroom of the gilded hall of Dr. Elliot Jackson Towers. Draped in sapphire gowns and surrounded by wise poets and war-weary dancers, the long-legged ladies toasted resilience, survival, and sisterhood. But the cake had barely been sliced when Captain Kane struck. In the dead of night, the Cairns conga raided the ballroom disguised as violinists. They set the chandeliers ablaze with flaming conga drums and hurled mango cocktails laced with sleep dust into the crowd. Screams bounced off crystal walls as guests collapsed into dreams they would never wake from. 39 perished that night. Lady Marigold survived by hiding inside a birthday present box for 8 hours, her satin dress torn and her mascara running like dark rivers down her cheeks. The gold mine collapse. Lady Marigold, determined to secure the miners' vote and restore morale after the cinema disaster and her tragic birthday, ventured into the cavernous belly of the abandoned Morning Star mine on February 8th. With her were her closest campaigners and a handful of local miners loyal to the Longreach cause. The plan was to deliver a rousing speech at the subterranean amphitheatre, an old quartz chamber where sound bounced in perfect clarity. But something in the earth did not approve. Locals had always whispered of the deep wise spirits, ancient voices of dissent that slumbered beneath the ore. As Lady Marigold spoke passionately about sunburn as the mark of true outback identity, the cave trembled. Her final word, truth, echoed so forcefully it fractured the supporting beams. The mine collapsed. Rocks fell like verdicts. The entrance sealed behind a mountain of rubble. Trapped in the dark, 38 campaigners and 3 miners clung to sanity with only the light of 3 torches and the distraction of philosophical debate. They rationed 2 loaves of bread and spent hours reciting passages from the monthly intellect, arguing fiercely over the ethics of panic. Some did not survive the hunger. Some faded mid-debate. Lady Marigold, delirious and hallucinating, began carving allegories into the cave walls with her broken heel. When they finally emerged 3 days later, pale and starved, they were different. Haunted. Changed. She never wore those stilettos again. When Lady Marigold regained her sanity, she realized that the Cairns conga had taken over the entire town, and she saw that a 300-meter-tall statue of an old man had been built. Townsfolk were ordered to bow down to it. The Racecourse Massacre. On February 21st, the Cairns conga sought to restore joy through the ancient art of equine celebration. The Wise Steeplechase, held on the dusty racecourse west of Charters Towers, was to be a jubilant festival, a parade of hypnotized thoroughbred horses trained to perform conga dances in single file. But the Longreach ladies had other plans. That night, masked saboteurs crept into the stables and whispered riddles, haikus, and paradoxes into the horses' ears. The next day, under a hot sun and the frenzied beat of bongo drums, the horses stepped onto the track. They began to march. Then to trot. Then to sprint. Their eyes glazed. Their rhythm broke. And suddenly, they turned. Like a flood of fury, the hypnotized beasts charged the crowd. They let barriers, trampled drums, and shredded conga flags with their hooves. Screams rang out as soldiers fell. Captain Kane, draped in ceremonial feathers, was flung backwards into a mango stand. 240 lives were lost, most of them conga dancers, poets, and rhythm tacticians. The blood dried into the racetrack dust. The hooves kept stamping in memory. The final surrender. On March 1st, the war shuddered to its exhausted end. Charters Towers was a ghost of itself. Ash and silence choked the streets. No music played. No verses echoed. Captain Kane, stripped of rhythm and reason, appeared beneath the scorched eucalyptus of Listener Park. His feathered cloak was torn. His once glorious conga drum was silent. He knelt before Lady Marigold, whose eyes burned with sorrow, not triumph. He handed her his tap shoes, then his hat. He did not speak. She lifted one leg, not in victory, but in mourning, and turned away. The day was marked as a victory for the Longreach long-legged ladies, as the statue was relocated to India, and the mayor declared the day the liberation of Charters Towers. Captain Kane was sentenced to New South Wales by the Governor of Queensland at the time, but he immediately succumbed to frostbite in 1936. Lady Marigold, at the age of 95, passed away in 1994 at her home in Hoonderden. There was a 5-minute mourning period led by her grandson Bob, while her coffin was being buried along with her high heels, cigarette, and tap shoes. The War of Wise was buried in silence. The Utrecht Wise Parliament made no mention of it. After the war, even when Lady Marigold gained her seat, she was mostly ignored, until she once stood up in support of Rita Snail-Bourbon's protest against the inauguration of Mr. Cockroach. But if you stand in Charters Towers on a moonlit night, and the wind runs just right through the ghost gums, you may hear it still, a distant tap-tap-tap of forgotten feet, a whispered rhyme, and the gentle sob of an unseen audience. It was not just a war. It was a symphony of tragedy, a ballet of ambition, a massacre of minds. Thank you for watching my video on providing details on this sometimes forgotten war. Like this video and share it to those who are interested in history. I do own a bowl with Lady Marigold's face on it if anybody is interested in seeing it. Me and Evelyn are both intrigued with it, so we are keeping it. Thank you for watching.